So I went to the Wilco Pow Wow last week, and while I was there, I was reminded of how back in the 1900s, Westerns or more modern, those like military and government thrillers used to use that term, powwow, to talk about a work meeting. Do y'all remember? There'd be like this like smizing cigar chomping general peering over his scotch being like, I think it's time to have ourselves a powwow. Now, fortunately, you don't hear that much anymore, right? But I wasn't 100% sure why, so I did a little bit of digging into the history of the word and that usage. Hey, I'm Angela, I'm a professor, I am not native, but I did consult a lot of books, most of them by native authors. So for those of you who don't know, a powwow is an intertribal gathering of Native Americans who travel all over the continent for these weekends of culture and reconnection. There's drumming and dancing, of course. There's also lots of really, really amazing food vendors. Also like storytelling circles, fires, crafts, games for adults as well as children, etc. All that to say that there is a real significance behind that term. And now historically, that term comes from the Narragansett people and language and is traced back to the 1600s, perhaps even earlier, which, if you pay attention to your history, is right around about when European colonists settled the East Coast and began pushing west in significant numbers. This threatened every native tribe's way of life, right? Because Europeans brought disease with them, and they mostly had a feudal relationship to the land rather than a communal one. That meant that Europeans wanted to keep the land, control how it was used, and determine who was and wasn't allowed on it, which of course is in direct opposition to native ways of life. And the term actually comes from a cluster of Narragansett terms that are used to describe spiritual leaders and dreamers. Medicine men, you could call them, the people who were needed to create a brain trust for how to collectively handle European incursion on American soil. And you have to remember that Native people know, and always knew, that you have to find and hold on to the joy in your community and your culture. So while the dreamers and leaders discussed how to handle this important and very serious transitional moment in history, the others of the tribes did what they did best. They exchanged items, they shared techniques for warfare, making tools and weapons, and they also celebrated each other. Right, so that's the historical spirit that comes into a modern powwow, which is why they're such wonderful places to visit, and also why using that term to discuss mere meetings is an insult.